In the annals of British history, the abdication crisis of 1936 stands as a remarkable event. Forced into an unexpected ascension to power, Bertie was an unlikely king, replacing his brother who had renounced the throne, all amidst a tumultuous political climate. Imagine that transition, the mantle of leadership thrust upon you at a time when you least expect it. Would you be ready for it? Bertie's personal struggle, however, ran far deeper than the transition from duke to king. He grappled with a speech disorder that had plagued him since his childhood. Public speaking is daunting for many of us, isn't it? Now picture the magnitude of that fear coupled with a speaking impairment, amplified by a regal duty that entails countless speeches broadcast to millions. The embarrassment, the anxiety, the trepidation, he had to confront them all. Yet, the crown did not give him the luxury of retreat. His new role as king called for public addresses, radio broadcasts, speeches at formal events, and much more. The very thing he shied away from was now an unavoidable part of his daily life. The face of the nation, the symbol of monarchy, was shrouded in a veneer of vulnerability. Yet, isn't it in such moments of adversity that we often discover our latent strengths? When faced with a challenge, we either step down or step up. Bertie chose the latter. He decided to confront his speech disorder, to surmount the obstacle that stood between him and his duty as a king. Through tireless effort, he began making strides in improving his speech with the help of a therapist and his spouse. He put himself in uncomfortable situations, faced his fears head-on, and slowly began to turn the tide. The journey wasn't easy, nor was it swift. There were moments of despair, episodes of regression, and times when the progress felt too slow to matter. Yet, the key was not in the speed of progress, but in its existence. Every small victory, every single word pronounced right, every successful speech, began to build up his confidence, strengthening his resolve to overcome his speech disorder. He had to accept his vulnerability, the very thing that he and many others perceived as his weakness. It wasn't easy. Acceptance of vulnerability is often a daunting task, given that our society has conditioned us to perceive it as a sign of weakness. We shy away from showing our vulnerabilities, fearing judgment, rejection, or pity. But is vulnerability truly a weakness? Or have we misunderstood its fundamental nature? Bertie's journey challenges this preconceived notion. He turned what was perceived as his greatest weakness into an opportunity for growth, a tool for transformation. His vulnerability, his speech disorder, was not a hindrance but a catalyst. It forced him to step out of his comfort zone, to face his fears, to work tirelessly towards overcoming them, and in the process, to grow as a person, a king, a leader of a nation. This transformative power of vulnerability is not exclusive to kings or leaders. It is inherent in each one of us. In recognizing and embracing our vulnerabilities, we begin to see them not as weaknesses, but as opportunities for growth, for change, for transformation. For it is only when we accept our flaws and work towards improving them that we truly evolve and reach our potential. In Bertie's case, his vulnerability, his speech disorder, became the very means through which he found his voice, a voice that led a nation, a voice that resonated with millions, a voice that was born out of vulnerability, yet echoed strength and resilience. It was his acceptance of vulnerability that fostered his courage to face his fears and hardships, thereby catalyzing his personal growth. As we unfold this tale of an unlikely king, let us ponder over the powerful message it holds, the transformative potential of vulnerability. Through this lens, we can begin to see vulnerability not as a sign of weakness but as a pathway to personal growth, authentic connections, and courage. Let us dwell further into this fascinating journey, and in the process, unravel our own vulnerabilities and the potential they hold for us. There's a profound strength in allowing oneself to be vulnerable, a power that is often misunderstood and overlooked. It's a concept that we, as a society, have been conditioned to see as undesirable, as a flaw that needs to be hidden. But what if we started looking at vulnerability from a different perspective? What if we started to see it as a strength, a catalyst for personal growth? Take Bertie, for example, an unlikely king burdened with a speech impediment. a vulnerability that could have easily become his downfall. But Bertie chose a different path, a path that involved not running away from his weakness but staring it straight in the eye. He embraced the discomfort, the embarrassment, the fear, and began working relentlessly towards improving his speech. He put himself in challenging situations, pushed his boundaries, and started seeing gradual progress. His courage to face his vulnerability, to expose it to the world without fear of judgment or ridicule, was a testament to his strength. Each word he uttered, each sentence he completed, was a victory not just over his speech disorder, but also over his fear of vulnerability. Interestingly, it's this willingness to accept one's vulnerability, to expose oneself to the possibility of failure, that leads to personal growth. It's this courage to step out of one's comfort zone, to take risks, to face the unknown, that fosters resilience and strength. Bertie's journey is a testament to this transformative power of vulnerability. The idea of vulnerability as a weakness is a deeply ingrained societal construct. We have been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is a sign of frailty, that it's something to be hidden and masked. We build walls around ourselves, create facades of strength, in a bid to hide our vulnerabilities from the world. But this only leads to a disconnect with our true selves. In trying to project an image of strength and invincibility, we often lose sight of who we truly are. We become bound by this image, this facade that we create for ourselves, and end up neglecting our authentic selves. The fear of vulnerability, the fear of being judged for our flaws, becomes a hindrance to our personal growth. It keeps us from exploring our potential, from realizing our true worth. The deceptive strength that we portray to mask our vulnerabilities can also be our downfall. It creates a false sense of security, an illusion of invincibility that can easily be shattered by unforeseeable circumstances. Real strength is not about masking our weaknesses, but about acknowledging them, about making peace with our vulnerabilities and working towards improving them. Consider Bertie once again. His real strength was not in his crown or in his status as the king, but in his courage to face his vulnerability, to acknowledge his speech disorder, and to work tirelessly towards overcoming it. His strength was in his resilience, in his determination, in his willingness to step out of his comfort zone and face his fears. As we delve deeper into this journey of understanding vulnerability, let's challenge our preconceived notions. Let's start looking at vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a catalyst for growth. Let's start acknowledging our flaws, embracing our vulnerabilities, and using them as stepping stones to personal growth. After all, it's our vulnerabilities that make us human, that connect us to each other, that help us grow and evolve. It's our vulnerabilities that make us, us. And so it is worth noting that in addition to personal growth, vulnerability also facilitates the formation of genuine connections. It is through the honest acknowledgement of our vulnerabilities that we can form meaningful relationships, authentic bonds that are based on mutual understanding and respect. The struggle that Bertie had with his speech disorder was not something he endured alone. His therapist was there to help him, guide him, and his spouse was there to provide him with all the emotional support he needed. Both of these relationships were strengthened by Bertie's courage to be vulnerable, to acknowledge his struggle, and to seek help. However, society often imposes certain expectations and norms, particularly on men, which discourage the expression of vulnerability. Men are typically expected to be strong, to be stoic, to be in control. They are taught from a young age to mask their feelings, to hide their vulnerabilities, to project an image of strength and invincibility. This societal conditioning can lead to a fear of appearing vulnerable, a fear of losing respect or status. It can lead to the creation of a facade, a wall that men build around themselves to hide their vulnerabilities. But such a facade is not conducive to personal growth or the formation of genuine connections. It only serves to create a disconnect, a barrier that prevents authentic communication and understanding. It keeps us from being true to ourselves and from forming meaningful relationships. It inhibits our growth, our ability to learn and evolve. The solution is simple, yet profound: embracing our vulnerabilities. It is only when we drop the facade, when we let go of societal expectations and norms, that we can truly be ourselves. It is only then that we can pursue our interests without fear of judgment or ridicule. It is only then that we can attract people who appreciate us for who we are, not for who we pretend to be. And so, the power of vulnerability is not just about personal growth, it is also about the formation of genuine connections. It is about being true to ourselves and allowing others to see us for who we are. It is about fostering a sense of belonging, of understanding, of mutual respect. It is about allowing ourselves to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. But embracing our vulnerabilities is not a one-time thing. It is a continuous process, a journey that requires patience, courage, and resilience. It involves acknowledging our flaws, accepting them, and working towards improving them. It involves taking risks, stepping out of our comfort zones, and facing our fears. And most importantly, it involves being true to ourselves, irrespective of societal expectations and norms. And in this journey, in this process of embracing our vulnerabilities, we find strength. We find courage. We find growth. We find connections. We find ourselves. For it is in our vulnerabilities that we discover our true selves, our true potential. It is in our vulnerabilities that we find the courage to be ourselves, to be authentic, to be real. So let's embrace our vulnerabilities. Let's acknowledge them, accept them, and turn them into our strengths. Let's be brave enough to be ourselves, to be real, to be vulnerable. For it is in doing so that we can truly grow, evolve, and form genuine connections. Let's harness the power of vulnerability and channel it towards personal growth, authentic connections, and courage. In the face of societal pressures and expectations, we often find ourselves creating a false image of strength. We try to hide our weaknesses, to mask our vulnerabilities. We believe that by doing so, we are projecting an image of strength, an image of invincibility. But this is a deceptive strength, a facade. This is not true strength. True strength lies in acknowledging our vulnerabilities, in facing our weaknesses, in embracing our true selves. And yet, society often equates vulnerability with weakness. This is a misguided notion, a misconception that needs to be challenged. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it is a testament to our strength, to our courage, to our authenticity. It is a measure of our ability to face our fears, to confront our insecurities, to overcome our obstacles. Consider, for instance, the example of Birdie. He was plagued by a speech disorder, a condition that had the potential to harm his public image, his reputation, his status as king. He could have chosen to hide this weakness, to mask it, to pretend it didn't exist. But he chose a different path. He chose to acknowledge his vulnerability, to confront it head-on. And in doing so, he not only overcame his speech disorder but also became a source of inspiration for many. But this path was not easy. It required courage, resilience, determination. It required Birdie to step out of his comfort zone, to face his fears, to confront his insecurities. It required him to embrace his vulnerability, to accept it as a part of his identity. And it is this acceptance, this willingness to confront our vulnerabilities, that truly sets us free. But our strength, our resilience, our ability to face our vulnerabilities can be compromised by unforeseeable circumstances. Life is unpredictable. It is full of challenges, obstacles, uncertainties. And it is in these moments of uncertainty, these moments of crisis, that our true strength is tested. It is in these moments that our inherent vulnerability is exposed. And it is in these moments that our true selves are revealed. So, let us not be deceived by the illusion of strength, the facade of invincibility. Let us not fall prey to societal expectations, to societal norms. Let us challenge the notion that vulnerability equals weakness. Let us instead embrace our vulnerabilities, acknowledge our weaknesses, confront our fears. For it is in doing so that we can truly grow, evolve, and thrive. At the same time, we must also be aware of the societal stigma and gender expectations that are often associated with vulnerability. Society often discourages men from showing vulnerability, from expressing their emotions, from acknowledging their weaknesses. This can result in a fear of being judged, a fear of losing respect or status. It can lead men to build a wall around themselves, a facade of strength, a mask of invincibility. And yet, this facade, this mask, is not a reflection of true strength. It is merely a deception, a lie. It hinders personal growth, prevents genuine connections, inhibits self-improvement. It keeps men from being true to themselves, from expressing their emotions, from acknowledging their vulnerabilities. So, let us break this cycle. Let us challenge societal expectations, defy gender norms. Let us encourage men to embrace their vulnerabilities, to express their emotions, to acknowledge their weaknesses. For it is in doing so that we can foster personal growth, authentic connections, and courage. In the face of societal constraints and expectations, we often find ourselves molding our personalities and behaviors to fit into prescribed norms. We operate under a constant fear of judgment, rejection, or loss of respect that we wrap ourselves up in layers of pretense, creating a facade of strength while hiding what we perceive as weaknesses. However, this facade can impede personal growth and the formation of genuine connections. It is crucial to understand that authentic connections stem from authenticity itself. To form deep, meaningful relationships, we must first be transparent with ourselves. This implies being vulnerable, being honest about our fears, insecurities, and weaknesses. It means letting go of the impulse to please everyone around us, to adhere to societal expectations, and instead, embracing our true selves. When we focus on deceiving others and conforming to societal standards, we often find ourselves in an endless loop of dissatisfaction and inauthenticity. We tend to attract people who are drawn towards the facade we wear rather than individuals who appreciate us for who we truly are. This could result in superficial relationships that lack depth and understanding. However, the moment we drop this facade, the moment we embrace our vulnerabilities, we break free from the chains of societal expectations. We grant ourselves the liberty to pursue our true interests, to express our genuine emotions, to live our authentic lives. And in doing so, we attract those who value and respect us for our authenticity, leading to meaningful connections that are built on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. Beyond personal connections, being vulnerable also brings about a profound transformation in our personal growth. The willingness to acknowledge and engage with our vulnerabilities fosters courage and resilience. It allows us to confront our fears head-on and teaches us invaluable lessons about ourselves and the world around us. Embracing vulnerability also fosters self-improvement and increased confidence. Instead of hiding our flaws, we learn to work with them, turning them into stepping stones on our journey to self-improvement. When we accept our vulnerabilities, we also realize that there is no shame in seeking help when necessary. Take trauma, for instance, which is one of the most extreme forms of vulnerability. Attempting to navigate through trauma on our own can be incredibly challenging and, in some cases, damaging. Acknowledging our vulnerability and seeking professional help not only aids in healing but also equips us with the skills and resilience to better handle future adversities. Self-acceptance, indifference to societal judgments, and embracing uncertainty are critical tools for this journey towards embracing vulnerability. By accepting ourselves, we eliminate the need for shame and the compulsion to hide our true selves. By rejecting societal judgments, we understand that our worth is not defined by others' opinions of us. And by embracing uncertainty, we allow ourselves to take risks, to venture into the unknown, to learn, and to grow. All of this boils down to understanding that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to our strength, courage, and authenticity. It is a tool for personal growth, a catalyst for authentic connections, and a pathway to a fulfilling and authentic life. So let's shatter the societal norms that equate vulnerability with weakness. Instead, let's embrace our vulnerabilities and witness the transformation it brings about in our lives. Having realized the power of our own vulnerability, it is clear that it does not make us weak or less than, but rather, it forms a significant part of our identity, our authenticity. This authenticity is the key to forming genuine connections. It is being true to ourselves, embracing our flaws, our fears, our aspirations, that attracts those who value us for who we are, rather than what we pretend to be. Often, we find ourselves trying to please others, straining to fit into societal molds, worrying about judgments and opinions. We may alter our personalities, suppress our desires, and hide our feelings to meet the standards set by others. This need for approval can be incredibly draining, and more importantly, it can prevent us from forming authentic relationships. By focusing so much on fitting into a certain image, we may fail to notice that we are pushing away those who appreciate us for our genuineness. However, what happens when we let go of this pleasing persona? What happens when we stop trying to fit into molds and instead start being true to ourselves? The moment we drop this facade, we experience a sense of liberation. We free ourselves from the shackles of societal expectations, giving ourselves the freedom to pursue our own interests, to express our genuine emotions. When we embrace our vulnerabilities and let our true selves be seen, we begin to attract people who appreciate us for who we truly are. And this is where genuine connections are formed, connections that are built on mutual respect, understanding, and authenticity. These relationships are not based on pretense or the need to maintain a certain image, but rather on mutual acceptance of each other's vulnerabilities. And it is in these relationships that we find comfort, support, and a sense of belonging. In this journey of embracing vulnerability, we also open ourselves up to personal growth. By acknowledging our weaknesses, our fears, our vulnerabilities, we lay a foundation for self-improvement. We are no longer scared to confront our shortcomings, but instead, we harness them to become stronger, better versions of ourselves. One of the most challenging aspects of this journey is dealing with trauma. Trauma can make us feel incredibly vulnerable, exposed, and weak. However, with courage and professional help, we can navigate through this difficult experience. The process of healing from trauma requires us to be open, to be vulnerable. It's not an easy road, but it's a necessary one for our well-being and personal growth. To navigate this journey successfully, we need to equip ourselves with the right set of tools. One of these tools is self-acceptance, the ability to accept ourselves for who we are, including our flaws, fears, and insecurities. Another tool is indifference to societal judgments. We need to realize that our worth is not defined by others' opinions of us. And finally, we need to learn to embrace uncertainty. The ability to dive into the unknown, to take risks, and to accept the possibility of failure or rejection allows us to fully engage in our relationships and our ambitions. By embracing vulnerability, we not only foster courage and personal growth, but we also pave the way for genuine, authentic relationships. It is time to let go of the facade, the fear of judgments, the societal expectations, and embrace our true selves. History is replete with examples of individuals who, through their vulnerability, achieved greatness. It's time to follow in their footsteps and embrace the transformative power of vulnerability. So, let us delve deeper into these tools that we can arm ourselves with, the ones that can guide us through our journey of embracing vulnerability. The first of these is self-acceptance, the art of acknowledging who we truly are, with our strengths and weaknesses, our achievements and our failures. It is a simple concept, but often the most challenging to implement. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It does not mean we stop striving to improve or grow. Rather, it is the acknowledgement of our present state, our current self. Self-acceptance eliminates the need for shame or hiding. It encourages us to accept our past mistakes, to learn from them, and to use them as stepping stones towards personal growth. It replaces fear of judgment with self-confidence and self-love. It gives us the courage to walk the path of self-improvement, secure in the knowledge that we are perfectly imperfect. Another vital tool is indifference to others' judgments. It is important to remember that we are not defined by what others think of us. We are defined by our actions, our values, our integrity, and our character. By liberating ourselves from the chains of societal judgments, we foster self-respect and honor our individuality. And finally, we must learn to embrace uncertainty. Uncertainty can be unnerving. It forces us to confront the possibility of failure or rejection. But it is within this very uncertainty that potential for growth lies. Embracing uncertainty is about accepting the risk, diving into the unknown, and making peace with the fact that we may not always succeed. It allows us to pursue our goals and engage in relationships wholeheartedly, without the fear of potential failure or rejection holding us back. As we journey through life, we must remember that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to our courage. It is the willingness to face our fears, to confront our weaknesses, and to push our boundaries. It is about being true to ourselves, about embracing our authenticity. It is about being human. In conclusion, the power of vulnerability lies in its transformative ability to foster courage, personal growth, and authentic connections. It requires us to be brave, to stand in our truth, and to be authentically ourselves. It requires us to embrace our flaws, our imperfections, and to see them not as signs of weakness, but as opportunities for growth. It requires us to let go of societal expectations, to dismiss judgments, and to honor our unique selves. And so, as we journey forward, let us remember to be kind to ourselves, to practice self-acceptance, and to embrace the beauty of our vulnerabilities. Let us remember that our strength lies not in our ability to hide our weaknesses, but in our courage to acknowledge and confront them. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of vulnerability. I hope that this discussion has shed some light on the transformative power of vulnerability and has inspired you to embark on your own journey of self-discovery. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Also, as we continue to explore different aspects of personal growth, we would love to hear from you. So, please feel free to share your experiences, thoughts, and insights in the comments below. Remember, embracing vulnerability is about being courageous, being authentic, and being human. And in that vulnerability lies our greatest strength.